So welcome everybody to my channel here. I practice real estate in the western part of Virginia near Lexington. And as many of the people who view my videos know already, I am a specialist in the rural property and country property and recreation and so on out in the rural area. I live here near Lexington, Virginia. Now today I want to talk a little bit about being a drone photographer. I happen to have a private pilot license, and also I was a photographer for many years, and I ended up photographing a lot of properties from the ground, and also got a pilot license, and I photographed homes from the air and large projects and construction projects. So I bought a little airplane a number of years ago, a little tiny thing, and I do have a current pilot license for visual flight. But today I want to talk a little bit about how a drone photography job works, because I used to do larger, longer, bigger pieces of property with the old style aerial photo and taking a picture out of a plane window. But I got into drone photography recently, and I'm very soon going to complete my pilot license for unmanned aircraft. I have a tremendous amount of knowledge already about the subject because I also have a private pilot license and I've been studying. So in the very near future, I will have my full commercial permit to fly a drone for that purpose. Now, I want to tell people a little bit how a job works, because I came back into aerial photography from a different place. Instead of being like a younger person who was just maybe however their life developed, they suddenly got into technology and started flying around drones, and next thing you know, they got into that. And then next thing you know, because of they're a drone pilot, they're connecting to real estate. Well, I kind of came the other way around, because I was into normal area photography and came into real estate, and then from real estate came into drones and realized, well, this is a perfect match for me. So that's how I ended up getting my own drone. But I have a lot of strategic planning experience for flight plans and other kinds of work I've done. So I have a checklist. You know, we always talk about how a short pencil beats a long memory. That's a pilot phrase. You see, I got a little short pencil right here. If I write it down, I'm not going to forget it. So one of the things I come to get when I talk to customers about a job I'm going to do, for example, a drone, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I'm going to take a lot of notes, and if you're not with me in person, I'll be here on my phone just taking a bunch of notes, and I want to know exactly a lot of information about the particular job I'm going to do so I can plan it. For example, I have here a map. I'm going to arrive at people's houses the first time I see them, or my job site, and I say, okay, I got a checklist here, a bunch of things I need to know. I need to set up a little map. Sometimes I have an outline of the property. In this case, this is a property I did last year. I sold it as a real estate agent, and the house is way down here, and this is all sloped and a lot of wood up there, and you really couldn't walk the whole property. It's so difficult, so big. But there was a nice field down in this area, so I've taken some photos around that area, and then you can raise the drone up higher and you can see farther into the woods just using the drone. So that's one of the very helpful things that a drone can do. So what I do is I make a strategy. Well, how am I going to photograph this property? What do we want to achieve here? Are we going to sell it? Is that what the object is, or you want it more of a promotional thing? Is it a nostalgia thing? Do you just curious about your property? Do you want to just see what the roof looks like after 40 years? So there's a lot of uses for the photography, but from my point of view, I have a strategy. Okay, tell me what the purpose of it is. Let's establish that together. I'll come up with some ideas with you. Say, hey, let's do this, let's do that. And generally, the way a lot of planning goes in, the actual flight time of a drone, my battery lasts maybe maximum 40 minutes. And that's a long time for a drone anyway. And you don't need to be up there that long with the drone. Typically, you can get 20 to 15, 20 minutes. That's plenty of time to get a whole bunch of pictures and some video that you can organize later and just take the best shots, you know. So I have a photography background, so that's why I have, in addition to aviation, I have just that mindset of, okay, I want to get a good lighting, I want the weather to be good, I want the wind to be good for my little drone, and I want to be able to have a time of day where I think, okay, well, if the sun is coming up in the east and the house is on the east slope of a hill, you want to get that job, you want to get that beautiful photography in the morning when the sun is coming up and it's lighting up that whole hillside. But in the afternoon, it'll look like doom and gloom. You know, the same property. So it's all a matter of strategy and what you're aiming for. Now, there are times when someone wants to photograph, say, a land parcel, and all they really want is a bunch of totally vertical shots. Click, 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 so they can survey a field, so they can see what's on the property. That's a very easy photograph to do. You set the lighting exposures on the camera, on the drone, and so on, and then you can even set it up as a programmed shoot, and it'll just keep taking pictures every 5-10 seconds, and then it'll come back to you at the end. So there's a lot of really interesting things that can be done with a drone. So again, a strategy, a plan, what are we doing here, how long is it going to take, when's the best time to do it, check the weather, let's make a plan, and then we go out and fly the plan. So what I do is, I'm using an example here. This is I want to find out where the location is. So let's just use this as an example here. This place way up here. You can't see it very well, but there's a little place up there. It's in a valley, and it's on kind of the east slope of a hillside, and not too high in altitude. And it's open space, probably a lot of farm and fields up there. No people, you don't have to worry about all that. You can Class G airspace, you can go up a few hundred feet and get some sweeping, beautiful pictures down this valley. I've personally been up in this valley, actually, but it's hard to tell on this chart. There's much better maps that you can use. For example, behind me, I have a 3D tactile map of parts of West Virginia and the Upper Shenandoah Valley, and that's Waynesboro, and that's Stanton, and that's Charlottesville, and this is the Blue Ridge Parkway down here. So all of these kinds of tools that we use GIS, Graphic Information System, for the counties, and topography, find out the topography, where am I going to be flying, what's the wind likely to be like in a valley. You could pick up some gusty winds, sometimes the turbulence or so on, convection currents in a valley and so on. And if the wind is fairly stable and reasonable, the drone can handle it. Just don't want too many of those really huge gusts. And you also have to think about what would happen if my aircraft conked out or something, and would it fall? Would I be able to find it okay? You stay out of the trees, all the common sense stuff. You basically plan a strategy of manipulating the drone that is the least likely to cause any problems of falling on someone's head or scaring a cow or something. So you keep the drone, you have to think about the altitude and the obstacles. Sometimes there's power lines in the neighborhood. You got to be really careful about those. And so on. So basically, in this case, I know this valley up here, and it's very, very gentle, and there's really no problems. If you stay high enough, the cows won't, stampede. So now, there's a lot more that I want to do, because like I said, I have a checklist. Once I scout the location, if it's near me, I'll go scout it, actually preview, take a look, and to see it in person. If not, then I'll do my best to get as much information. I may have a map here, a topographic printout of what I'm dealing with here. In this case, you can't really see it on this particular printout, but there's topographic lines in there that I can say, okay, well, that's a steep slope right there, and it's wooded, so I'm going to be, I want to stay away from that for sure. Don't want to get in the trees. So all this, I have a checklist here. This is even only part of it, because I go through a pre-flight, I inspect the aircraft, batteries, charge, memory cards, check the map, check the weather, flight plan, a maneuvers list, where am I going to manipulate, where's my landing, start, put on an orange vest, start the controller, start the aircraft, set the parameters. You want to set the photo parameters, all the settings on the camera, and a checklist of the images needed. Say, okay, here I'm going to launch now, I'm going to go with this objective, and I'm going to get X photographs at X position, at X angle, at X height, or Y height, or whatever, and then we're going to come back. So basically, you want to make sure it's connected to the GPS system and download the return to home location. So that's all part of it. Now you get into flight, okay, ascend to the right base altitude. First, when you take off, you just stabilize there for a while. Say, okay, make everything's good. Let the cameras sense where they are. GPS connected. Okay, now you tested all the parameters. You move the levers back and forth, just like a regular plane where you do the movements on the aircraft to make sure it's all safe and everything. And then, okay, prepare to take off. Okay, you go. And then you follow the plan. Fly the plan, plan the flight, and fly the plan, basically. So that's kind of the whole idea. Now, after you get back, you want to remove the memory card. You want to make sure they all got saved properly. You want to make sure the drone is in good shape and didn't get damaged or anything. You make a flight log, a note. Okay, well, I did X flight today, and sets the location, and kind of a basic log you have to keep. It's a good idea. Keep a good log of what you do. Anyway, so then you make sure you pack up. Pick up your landing pad if you have one, and make sure you log out and stuff. And then, when you get home, you got I go through all the pictures, make review, I save them onto a safe area, make duplicates of them all. I start looking at the best ones, I start reviewing them. So from start to finish, for example, when I used to do aerial photography, if the two jobs were in one basic area, I could do two in one day. But typically what we'd do would be I'd drive an hour or more to an airport, and where the location was. Then we'd fly for a little while, maybe 20, 15-minute flight or something, and then we'd do the job and come back. So it took an hour. Then I'd come home and edit all that. So basically, one job in that was a full day. Now you can do more than that in a drone, because a lot of times in real estate, what you do is you have a bunch of locations that are similar to each other, and if you do enough job, you get 2 a day or something. You can come home. The editing and reviewing the pictures happens for only if you hit two or three more shoots in one day. At the end, it's still the same. You download the images and do all that. So, depending on where the locations are, a full job in editing can take a day or so to really complete it properly, and edit. If you have 100 pictures, when I used to do weddings, I get 1,000 pictures. It does take a little while to review that many. But in the case of drone flights, most of the time you're talking about maybe 100 images, and maybe not even that, because you can be very specific with a drone. You can get up there and you can position it, and you can just plan and just put it right in the grid lines and make it really sharp and bang. Do a few of those and you're done, okay? And then you do the maneuvers around the circle, and then you can get stitched together photographs, and you can do a lot more in the software later with post-processing. So basically, I keep documentation. Just in real estate, you have to keep the records for 3 years. So what I do, my plans is just keep good records and where I went certain days. And sometimes you get when I used to do other kinds of photography, you do a little stock photos, okay? You go up and do a job, and hey, along the way you take a whole bunch of other pictures for your personal portfolio, and then the job kind of pays for itself in some ways. So from the point of view, if you're a realtor and if you really want to get into this, it's not that easy, really. It's really good to have some really good idea of terrain and weather and these big, huge, these kind of maps and detail and planning and logistics and all that. So it's not just that easy as just to go fetch yourself a drone and pop it up there and get a few pictures. It's a lot more sophisticated than that. At least it can be. If you're using a $2,000 drone to get $20 pictures, you could just take your camera to a pole and hold it up there or something. But that's kind of a sarcastic way of saying it. But basically, a lot of planning is involved in doing the proper job. So what I might do here is, for example, I make a diagram. Okay, I want to launch from here, and I'm going to go to the left, and I'm going to go up over the roof, and I'm going to top down over the roof, and then I'm going to go over to this position, and I'm going to do a circle around this way. This is just a really simple example, but you might have a number of buildings, you might have a bunch of features, someone wants to show their garden. So basically, that presents like, it's not just a house. If it's a large estate, it's not just a house. In real estate, you know that. Even sometimes a simple home in a small neighborhood with a half acre, the backyard can be phenomenal. And you take you might want to hover the pictures around that type of situation, just not this frame of the house and all that. It's a kind of a promotional thing. You know, things sell because of photos these days and video, so that's what drone photography is all about. So I hope I clarified a little bit about what's involved in a real full drone shoot. You have to have some serious knowledge, because if you crash your drone, you know, basically it's not going to kill somebody typically. These little drones are not going to kill somebody, but it could cause some nuisance. It could short out some power lines, or it could hit somebody's windshield or something like that, you know, and you just don't want to have any of those kind of problems. So the idea is to just get really knowledgeable about the operation and practice in a lot of different ways. But, you know, like I said, I was a real private pilot. I still have a little airplane, and I still have a little pilot VFR license. So I know a lot about aviation and airspace, but don't be discouraged either if you want to fly a drone. Any intelligent person, if you can do real estate contracts, you can probably figure this out, because frankly I think this is a little easier from my point of view. But anyway, so thanks again for listening, and appreciate all the feedback and comments. I really enjoy conversing and having a conversation with people about this subject. So I'll talk to you hopefully in another video soon. Thanks.